Some say monsters hide in shadows, but what if the real ones live in the walls? You're about to hear 3 terrifying stories, real cases shared by real people, stories of whispers in the dark, of breathing behind doors, of things that should not exist but do. You may want to turn on the lights, or maybe it's already too late. This is Kaza Nightmare. Let the darkness speak. Story 1. The Stranger Under the Bed. I had just finished another grueling double shift. My body ached from standing all day, and my mind was numb from dealing with customers and fluorescent lights. I remember walking home with heavy steps, dragging my feet through the dim streets. The air was still, almost too still, and the few street lamps that worked cast long, eerie shadows on the pavement. I lived alone in a small, single-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor. A quiet place, usually a comfort, but that night the silence felt oppressive. As I approached my door, I felt a chill crawl up the back of my neck. I paused before unlocking it, scanning the hallway behind me. No one. Just stale air and dim lights. I shook it off and stepped inside. It was dark, but I didn't turn on the lights right away. I liked easing into the quiet, letting my eyes adjust. The apartment smelled the same, faint laundry detergent, something burnt from breakfast, and old floorboards. But something else hung in the air that night, something I couldn't quite place. I dropped my keys on the table and took off my coat. The silence wrapped around me like a wet blanket. No ticking clock, no fridge hum, no upstairs neighbor walking around. That's when I heard it, a slow, deliberate creak, like wood under pressure. It came from the direction of my bedroom. At first I froze. My thoughts scrambled for a rational explanation. Maybe the building was just settling. Maybe I left the window cracked. I walked toward the sound slowly. As I passed the bathroom, I noticed the door was wide open. I always kept it shut. Always. A lump formed in my throat. I gently closed the bathroom door, heart pounding. Then, cautiously, I opened the bedroom door and peeked inside. Everything looked normal. The bed was made, the blinds were drawn, no signs of forced entry. I checked the closet, the windows. Everything was locked, but something still felt wrong. I stood there in the middle of the room, unsure why my skin was crawling. My eyes scanned every corner. The feeling of being watched was suffocating. Without thinking, I crouched down, and I saw him. A man, lying still under my bed, curled in the fetal position. His face pale and eyes wide open, staring directly at me. He didn't flinch, didn't move. He was holding something in both hands. In one, a flashlight still on. In the other, a camera. The lens pointed toward the edge of the bed, toward where I usually slept. I gasped and stumbled backward, hitting the wall. My legs felt like jelly. I ran into the bathroom, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were trembling as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I whispered, "There's a man under my bed. He's holding a camera. Please send someone. Please." I pressed my ear to the door, trying to hear if he moved. Nothing, just silence. My mind raced with possibilities. Was he armed? Was he drugged? What if he followed me to the bathroom and I didn't hear? I held my breath for long stretches, listening for any sound, any hint of movement. It felt like hours before I heard the knock. The police arrived. I shouted from the bathroom to go into the bedroom. They burst in and found him exactly where I said, still under the bed. He hadn't moved an inch. They dragged him out. He was calm, unblinking. When they questioned him, he said he'd climbed in through the bathroom window 3 nights ago, 3 days. He had been under my bed for 3 entire days, while I worked, while I slept, while I changed my clothes. I had lived my life unaware, inches above him. When asked why, he said, "I like the sound of breathing. I like to feel it. It reminds me I'm not alone." That's all he said. One of the officers later told me they found recordings on his camera, dozens of them, not just of me, but of others, strangers sleeping, eating, brushing their teeth. They weren't sure how many places he had broken into. He wasn't just trespassing, he had done this before. They took him away. The officers said it was the creepiest thing they'd ever seen. I moved out a week later. I don't live on ground floors anymore. I don't use beds with space underneath. I barely sleep. And sometimes when it's late and quiet and I feel like someone's watching, I still get down on my knees and check, even though I know he's gone, just in case. Story 2. I wasn't living alone. It started with the simplest things. A mug I swore I hadn't touched was on the kitchen counter. The living room lamp left on when I was sure I'd turned it off. My phone moved slightly from where I always left it charging. At first, I blamed stress. Long work hours, my mind playing tricks. I lived alone in a quiet apartment complex on the outskirts of town. No pets, no roommates, no reason to doubt my reality, and yet it kept happening. One morning, I noticed my shampoo bottle was turned upside down in the shower. The next day, the toilet seat was up. I started locking every door and window religiously, even checked them twice before bed. Still, I'd wake up to strange sounds. Faint creaks on the wooden floor, a cough that wasn't mine, the flush of water in the middle of the night. I set up a cheap security camera in my bedroom facing the hallway. I didn't expect to find anything, just to ease my paranoia, but the next morning the footage was gone, deleted, as if someone had erased it. That's when the dread truly began. I stopped sleeping. I kept lights on at night. I moved through my apartment as if it were a stranger's home, nervous with every creak. I began marking things. I placed a hair across the fridge door, dropped grains of rice across my closet floor, balanced coins on door handles. Every morning they were disturbed, nothing dramatic, just enough to know someone was moving. Then one night I returned home and something felt different. The air was heavier, the temperature slightly off, the silence had weight, and the closet door in my bedroom was open. I always closed it, always. But that night it gaped into a darkness that didn't seem natural. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police. That's when I heard it. A breath, ragged, human, coming from inside the closet. I froze. Then a whisper. "You left the window open again." My skin crawled. My chest tightened. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care if it sounded insane. I drove to a motel across town and stayed there for 2 days. When I returned, I brought police with me. They searched the place top to bottom. Found nothing. Until one of them checked the crawl space behind my closet. There, hidden in the wall, was a sleeping bag, a pile of food wrappers, a phone charger plugged into the back of my TV, a spoon, an old sweatshirt that wasn't mine, and a notebook. It was filled with notes about me, what time I showered, what I watched, when I left, when I slept. He knew my habits better than I did. On the last page, scrawled in shaky letters, "I think he suspects. I'll have to be quieter. I'll wait until he trusts the silence again." They never found who it was. They said he must have left when I fled that night, that I scared him off. But they don't know what I heard, how close that breath was, how calm the voice sounded. Now I sleep with one eye open because I wasn't living alone, and I'm not sure I am now. For weeks I tried to move on. I changed apartments, new city, new job. I told myself I was safe now, that whatever happened belonged to that place. But the fear lingered like the smell of smoke after a fire. One night in my new apartment, I heard something. A click. My bedroom light turned off, then on again. I rushed over. Nobody there, but on my pillow was a single hair, curled, not mine. That night I found my closet door slightly open again. I knew I had closed it. I always do now. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. Nothing, but on the inside wall someone had carved a line, just one, like a tally. I don't know if he followed me. I don't know if it's someone new. I only know one thing. The silence is no longer comforting. It's a lie. And somewhere in the dark, someone is waiting for me to trust it again. A week later, my phone rang in the middle of the night. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but it left a voicemail. Static, breathing. Then my own voice recorded, whispering in fear from that night I ran. I hadn't recorded anything. The timestamp. 2 days ago, someone still has access to me, to my life, my sounds, my silence. Last night I dreamed I was asleep in my old room, that I opened my eyes and saw someone crawling out of the wall like ink spilling from a crack. It wasn't just a dream, because when I woke up, the closet door was open again, in this new apartment, and there was another tally mark. Now there are 3. I bought a lock for the closet, a thick one, reinforced. I bolted it shut. I even placed my dresser in front of the door. But this morning the dresser was moved. The lock was still on. And inside, on the back wall, another line had been carved. 4. Story 3. I could hear him breathing. The apartment was my personal descent into madness, a third-floor purgatory in a building that groaned like a dying animal at night. The super called the water stains, vintage charm, and the broken intercom, retro appeal. But I saw the truth in the way the hallway lights flickered like failing synapses. After 6 months on my sister's couch, breathing in her husband's whiskey-lace snores, even this crumbling studio with its mysterious brown ceiling stains felt like sanctuary. For exactly 23 days, it was almost peaceful. I'd drag myself home from the accounting firm where I processed invoices under fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry hornets. Microwave whatever sad frozen dinner was on sale at the bodega. Always the chicken pot pie, $1.99, and collapse onto the thrift store couch that left suspicious yellow stains on my work shirts. The nighttime orchestra was almost comforting then. Mrs. Kowalski's telenovelas bleeding through the walls, the occasional scream of tires from the street below, the pipes singing their mournful song when I ran the shower too hot. Then came the morning I found my refrigerator standing wide open like a shocked mouth, its interior light casting long skeletal fingers across the chipped linoleum. The milk carton sat sweating on the middle shelf, though I always kept it in the door. That was the first time I felt it. That icy centipede crawl up my spine, whispering, "You're not alone here." The violations became a twisted daily ritual. My shower curtain would be parted exactly 3 finger widths when I returned from work, no matter how tightly I'd cinched it closed that morning. The kitchen chair would sit precisely 4 inches from the table, the vinyl seat still radiating body heat. My bedroom door, which I kept religiously closed with the deadbolt engaged, would be ajar just enough to reveal a sliver of pulsating darkness beyond. The sounds began during week 4. Not the normal complaints of an old building, but something far more deliberate. The dragging scrape of something heavy being pulled across the floor above me at exactly 3:17 a.m. The creak of weight shifting in the hallway, followed by 3 soft, evenly spaced knocks that ceased the moment I held my breath. Then came the breathing, wet, gurgling inhalations that seemed to emanate from inside my dresser one night, then from the heating vent the next. I began sleeping with every light blazing, a chef's knife under my pillow, my ears straining like taut violin strings. The tape test removed all doubt. I carefully placed a fresh strip of masking tape across the attic access panel. At 2:53 a.m., I woke to the sound of adhesive surrendering its grip. The tape hung broken in the morning, one end curled back with disturbing precision, the other end slightly damp. What I discovered in the attic still invades my darkest dreams. A nest of stained blankets arranged like a marriage bed, still warm to the touch. Dozens of emptied food containers, tuna cans licked clean, protein bar wrappers with perfect teeth marks that didn't match my dental work, and the notebook. Page after page of clinical observations in cramped handwriting. Subject's sleep cycle, 11:47 p.m. to 6:23 a.m., average. Nightmares occur 72 minutes after falling asleep, consistent. The sketches turn my blood to glacial ice, endless renderings of me sleeping, some with my eyelids stitched open, others with shadowy figures crouched on my chest like malevolent lovers. The most detailed showed my nude form with precise red lines drawn at every major joint, accompanied by handwritten notes about tendon separation. The police found nothing, naturally. By their arrival, the attic was spotless. No blankets, no containers, no nightmare journal. The officer kept eyeing my twitching left eye as he suggested I might need professional help. I nearly believed him, until the whisper came at 2:33 a.m. "You're even prettier when you're scared." The voice was phlegmy, decaying, like it hadn't been used in decades. When I slammed open my bedroom door, the hallway stood empty except for a Polaroid on the floor. Me, asleep in my bed, taken from inside my closet. The timestamp showed it had been taken just 7 minutes earlier. In the photo's bottom corner, barely visible, was a single pale finger curled around the closet door frame, its nail blackened and cracked, the cuticle torn and bloody. I fled before dawn, abandoning everything, my clothes, my books, even my mother's pearl earrings. Now I lie awake in my new apartment, listening to the silence. And sometimes when the wind dies at exactly 3:17 a.m., I swear I can still hear it, that wet, rattling breath, closer than ever. Because addresses change, locks can be replaced, but nightmares are forever. He's coming. They always do. These stories were shared on Reddit, confirmed, commented on, and some never fully explained, but they all have one thing in common. They happened in homes like yours, in beds like yours, to people just like you. Thank you for watching Casa Nightmare, and if you're still hearing this, you're still safe. For now. Subscribe for more. Let the darkness speak.